Hi there. Interviews can be tough, but with the right preparation, you can ace them. In this video, we're going to cover everything you need to know to shine and succeed in your next interview. So get ready to take notes and advance your career. Thorough research is going to be your secret weapon to preparing for an interview. Uncover the company's story and the intricacies of the role, understand who you're meeting with, industry trends, and the competitive landscape to stand out as a well prepared candidate. Research the company's history and values, really understand what's important to them. Get a sense of what's new and what's developing, and really have a good understanding and be able to talk through what their key products or services are. What are they bringing to the world? Conduct a thorough job description analysis. Understand what they're looking for, the required skills, qualifications, and typical responsibilities, and how those relate to your experience and interests. Get to know who you're meeting with. Use LinkedIn or the company website or other resources that you have, and try to find some connection points that you might be able to talk to during the conversation. Get to know industry trends. Where does this organization or company sit within the market, their other competitors, and kind of what are the challenges within the industry? Let's talk about the types of interviews that you may encounter during your job or internship search. The most common are behavioral interviews, and these interviews are going to use questions that ask you to provide examples of your past accomplishments or experiences, and they're going to use them as an indication of how you're going to perform in the future. We've got lots of lists of common questions that you can practice. The next type of interview you might encounter if you're interviewing for a technical or coding role, you'll likely have a technical portion of your interview. These interviews put candidates in a hypothetical situation to solve a problem and kind of test your own ability to function under pressure. We have a number of resources to help you prepare for these that I'll go over later. And the last is going to be case interviews. Again, this type of interview will put a candidate in a hypothetical situation to really solve a business problem. There are three kinds that you should be aware of: market sizing, strategy cases, and quantitative questions or brain teasers. This slide is going to help guide you through practicing a variety of types of questions. Kind of have general questions that you'll see, like, why do you want to work here? Insert name of company. Um, Role specific questions, like what interests you about a career in healthcare? Or situational or hypothetical questions. Describe a time when, tell me about a time or an instance where you blah, blah, blah. Preparing compelling stories is going to be key to demonstrating how you're going to fit in the role. What you want to do is generate in your mind a list of stories or narratives that align with the key aspects of the job description that you've gotten to know so well. And then you'll be ready to kind of showcase your skills that are relevant. This approach allows you to respond effectively to interview questions. So if I know that I want to tell a story about my project management skills, because that's relevant to the role that I'm interviewing for, I'm going to practice that one story and have it ready for a number of different questions that may come up. So let's talk about how we might do that. When I think about how I want to structure or craft that story, I'm going to use the STAR method. STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. And so I will have this story ready using this particular format for a variety of questions that I might get asked. Here's a couple examples of practice questions where I think I can use the same story to answer each of them. Describe a time when you were faced with a stressful situation that demonstrated your coping skills. Tell me about the most successful project you've completed and why you consider it successful. Or you could be asked, give me an example of how you demonstrate initiative. So let's take a look at how my story kind of gets structured under STAR. So situation or the setting the scene for your story. And here's my story. During my summer internship at such and such marketing firm, I was assigned to a team that was working on a product launch. Okay, and our team leader got sick and wasn't able to continue to work. So now I'm going to move on to task. What was it that I was asked to do? Well, I was asked to take over the project management so that we can continue to meet the deadline that was coming up. So I needed to coordinate with a bunch of different departments and finalize the campaign materials. Action. What are the things that I did? So I quickly set up a team meeting. I set up a shared timeline and daily check-ins and made sure that the client was aware of any updates or needed to give feedback. And then you want to address the results or the outcome. Essentially, the outcome was that we met the deadline and the client was pleased and ended up with a 15% increase in their sales over the next quarter. So this is an example of how you might structure that one story. First impressions are also going to be important. No matter what form your interview takes, you could be first interacting with this person on the phone, in a video format. You might meet them in person, or you might be doing a one-way interview with a recording it. If you're in person, you're going to want to master that handshake, and you can definitely practice with friends that way. For a number of these, you do want to work on your eye contact and think about how your body language is conveying, hopefully confidence and comfort and, just a positive feeling. You'll also most likely be given the opportunity to answer the very common question, tell me about yourself. You'll want to practice this one in a way that works for you. For me, I like to write out what I ideally want to say and practice it in several versions that kind of hit on all the same key points. I focus on relevant skills. We talked about that before, or experiences that I want to make sure I'm highlighting, and I'm going to keep that answer to 1 to 2 minutes. And really structure it to highlight my professional journey and strengths and why I might be a good fit for this position. During the interview process, you may come up against some potentially illegal questions, and it's important to know what can and can't be asked during the interview process. There is a wonderful resource on our website with lots of examples of this. I chose one to highlight here. So the illegal version of these questions could be, are you a US citizen? You sound like you have an accent. Where are you from? Where are your parents born? What's your native language? These are all examples of illegal questions that you don't have to answer. But the legal version might sound like, are you authorized to work in the United States? And if it's relevant to the job, what languages do you speak? So it's good to get a sense of what can and can't be asked, the do's and don'ts. You also might be asked to discuss your salary expectations somewhere during that process, the interview process. If you're close to the beginning, you could just indicate that you're negotiable and that you want to learn more about the position before you discuss it. If you're really pushed for a number, you can ask the interviewer what they have in mind. What's their range? And if that doesn't work, you can provide a broad range for yourself that's consistent with the research that you did. And within that research, you've considered the role, the company or organization, and kind of where they are, the region that they're in. You may have used some AI platform to help you prepare your application materials for this very job. Or maybe you used AI to help you with the job search itself. So here we are in the interview stage, and why not use it here as well? So here's a couple ideas, tips that you could use um, to help you prepare and kind of get that competitive edge. You can definitely ask AI to generate some practice questions for you. And you can ask that for a particular role. Um, you can also use it to enhance your own responses. You could use it to simulate interview scenarios, or kind of get feedback or insight. You might use it to help you create a list of questions you want to ask during the interview. And you could use it to help you edit your thank you note that you want to send after the interview process. It's important to note that you need to maintain your own privacy and anybody else's. Remove your name, remove other personal identifying information, where you go to school, what organization you're interviewing with. But at the same time, it is helpful when you're able to provide details because you're going to get a better response. So here's my example of that. Um, the example prompt, help me prepare an answer to the interview question. Tell me about yourself. We just talked about that. You could leave it at that, and you're going to get a very general response. Or you could give some more detail that is not self-identifying to help you narrow down what you're going to say. So you might say something like, okay, help me prepare the answer. I'm a political science major focusing on global affairs and environmental studies. I'm interviewing for a research internship with a think tank focused on climate resilient growth around the world. Keep your response to 150 words. So again, that's going to keep you within that 1 to 2 minute time frame. And so here you can see I've given a lot more information. None of it is self-identifying, but you're going to get a much more detailed response. And then you can edit it from there. You could flip this around and ask AI to come up with questions that you might be asked for a product management position, for example. So there's a number of ways to use AI to help you prepare for these conversations. It's also important to know what kinds of resources are available to you as a Yale student or alum. Of course, the Office of Career Strategy has counseling appointments that you can take advantage of. There's also a wonderful, very detailed portion of our website on interview preparation. So check that out. Lots of lists of questions, lots of lists of potential answers. So check it out. Online resources, Big Interview can help. You can run mock interviews for yourself and get AI feedback about your responses and your overall demeanor on screen. So check that out. Vault is going to give you very specific advice for interviewing in particular fields or industries. And then Rocket Blocks, like we talked about, that's going to help you prepare for some of those case interviews. So check those out when you can. You do want to prepare. I like to have about 5 to 7 interview questions for the end of that conversation you're going to have. This is your opportunity to ask about what's important to you. So although there's a great list of examples here and more on our website, really think about what you want to know about and what those questions say about you as a candidate. Make sure you have a couple extra because some of those questions are going to get answered during your conversation. And feel free to screenshot this and save it if that's helpful to you. So after the interview, you do want to make sure that you are preparing thank you notes for everyone that you met with, if possible. These messages should be sent out with 24 to 48 hours, if that's possible. And in the note, you want to make sure that you're thanking them for their time. Express your continued interest in the role, if that is indeed the case. And bring up something that you liked discussing with this person. So something like, I appreciated that you shared how your team handles professional development for new employees, because that was something we chatted about, and that's important to me. Also, take a moment to just think about how the interview went. Um, Identify some things you did well as some possible areas of improvement. And also think about, how you feel about the role and company after what you've learned. Are you really still interested? Make sure you're following up on any agreed upon timelines or deadlines or anything that you've agreed upon. Make sure that you're doing the next steps and think about your next round of interviews. You're now equipped with the tools to succeed. So practice, good luck, and remember you've got this. Go out there and impress them.